Today, guys, we're going to be taking a look at one of the worst pieces, if not the worst piece of crypto regulation in history. And at the end of this video, I'm going to be telling you exactly why SBF is trying to push this legislation across the entire country. Let's get it. Welcome to BitBoy Crypto. My name is Ben. Today we're talking about the Bit license. That is right, the New York state legislation that tanked crypto. In 2014, in February, Mt. Gox was hacked, and that led to, by July of 2014, the Bit license in New York coming to fruition. It was one of the first pieces of regulation that crypto saw, period. In 2015, the Bit license came into action, meaning companies had to adhere by its policies. And New York has been making life difficult for crypto customers and users ever since. And of course, this legislation came from New York. Why? Think New York City, think Wall Street, think stockbrokers, think everything that is TradFi. It's the financial capital of the world, so it only makes sense. Now, a lot of people say,
What's the big deal about a license?
well, here's why. To get a Bit license in the state of New York, it's gonna run you about $100,000 or even more. And this is an expense that most startups just can't endure. And there's also a minimal cash requirement. So these companies must have a certain amount of cash on hand. That number is very high. While we know the number is high, you actually have to go through the licensing process to find out what the exact number the state is requiring at the time. So unfortunately, we don't have a published number, but it's big. And the reason for this indiscrepancy is because the amount is up to the discretion of whichever superintendent in New York is reviewing the case. So basically it's, how much money can I squeeze out of you? Or do we like your company or not? If we don't, we're gonna set the number higher than you can afford. It's just another way that TradFi crushes small business. Now, what happens if a company gets the Bit license? Well, immediately, here's your reward. You get to be under the jurisdiction of the SEC. They love crypto, right? So crypto companies that fall under this jurisdiction, well, they're now forced to comply with basically all the same rules that the stock market does. In fact, the Bit license is more restrictive than current rules on the books for the New York Stock Exchange. So who introduced and designed this bill? Well, the answer is Benjamin Losky. Some herald him as one of the worst villains in the history of crypto. He was New York's first superintendent of the New York Department of Financial Services. He spent his early career working under another crypto hater, Chuck Schumer. He worked with him much of his career up until 2001. And just a few years after introducing the Bit license, Benjamin Losky went to go work for Ripple. And of course, as mentioned earlier, Schumer has been an enemy of crypto from the early days. He used crime and the Silk Road as an excuse to go after crypto. And more recently, he's been talking about the environmental concerns of crypto, which we know is all FUD. Of course, Schumer was the senator who called the Department of Justice and had them shut down Silk Road and arrest Ross Ulbricht, the creator of the Silk Road. And they threw the book at him. They wanted to make an example of anyone using crypto. They gave him 2 life sentences for creating a website. Does the punishment fit the crime? Not really. The New York Bit license forced 10 companies overnight to leave New York because of the regulation. Many more companies over the next year would leave. 2 of those are Shapeshift and Kraken. So before we go into what we might see with a federal Bit license, thanks to SBF, let's talk about the future of the New York Bit license. Well, right now it's actually uncertain. The agency that introduced the Bit license, the New York State Department of Financial Services, well, they actually want to loosen the reins on crypto a little bit to spur innovation. But no progress has been made on that proposal since they introduced it back in 2020. Now, one cool thing going on here is we have Eric Adams, the mayor of New York, and he's a Bitcoin bull. And he's actually called on the state legislature to do away with the Bit license entirety. So why is SBF pushing this idea of a federal Bit license? In his debate with Eric Voorhees at one point, he said the reason why the New York Bit license hasn't been effective is because it's on the state level. If you do it on the federal level, then you can guarantee it's gonna work because they're gonna force it. So what happens with a Bit license? Well, you see, decentralized companies go away. You can't be a decentralized exchange and get one of these licenses. So in a roundabout way, SBF is trying to destroy decentralized finance, DEXs, and also peer-to-peer transactions, because you're not a broker. I can't send you crypto. So this is why we have to push back against this idea of a federal Bit license. We have to put ourselves in a position of power as the people and prevent this from happening. In New York, they weren't strong enough. Not enough people knew about crypto at the time. Now we have pro-crypto senators, pro-crypto congressmen, pro-crypto cabinet members. We have all kinds of people across the board that stand for crypto and stand for the people. We cannot allow this bad-haired bully billionaire to be able to come in and take our decentralization. And I think we're gonna fight back. That's all I got. Be blessed. BitBoy out.